Hello, welcome to the Reframing Mindset podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity to practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, welcome back to Reframe Mindset podcast. My name is Constant Brooks. And this episode I talk about, losing my wallet. uh, losing my wallet and the thing about it when I lost the wallet. My some important stuff was in it. So the thing about it is that I have to go ahead and actually replace it. And when I replaced it, I realized that um things were the attempts were made or successful attempts were made to actually take money from some of the stuff and all those stuff so to just get that rectified. So but so the less that I took from that I actually mentioned in 2023 was to deal with scams and frauds as quickly as possible. I said I had to actually deal with that as quickly as possible as well and stuff. But that's one of those things now throwback again in another throwback episode. And that's one of those things where you realize where it could be my paranoia. Because the thing was that when you go into an environment that you do not know it, you go in there with good intentions, but you don't you don't understand. So I come from a very different family line. So certain things that people do is just always weird when we are not. I guess when we're at a certain trust level, you can do that, but a certain when you're dealing it to a stranger, and that's one of those things where if you just one of my episodes I talk about it pays to do the right thing. If you just simply do the right thing, 90% of the time you have a very different life. Just try to do the right thing. Many of the time it compounds and to a very different life. And you can basically be in the same place as someone, same place at the bottom, the same place at the bottom, but you just do things right more time than the other, and you have a different, different place at the bottom. Your bottom will look so much different than the other person just by you trying to do things right. Uh, so that's and see about is that you can tell people that as much as you want, they will always they will never you have to actually the person have to actually want to do good because that's the thing about it. You realize what life is so wired for doing bad to be easier. That's the thing. They're so wired for doing so that doing bad is way more easier than doing good. So and but that's all life is. Well, no, but the story is one of the thing is that was almost almost being robbed again in in another city. So I actually mentioned another story about that in a previous episode about in one city. This will be the other city now in the same place, the same country. So it's like what happened was that, and it was not. And the thing about it is that under different circumstances, it would not be somewhere be robbed. It's just that I'm, the way I come from a very I was raised somewhat privileged or stuff like that. So what happens is that when when I when I actually moved to a different place or stuff like that, people could that see something different. You know, they could see that I have a rich mindset. So I may not even be rich or have much money at the time, but my family was always forward thinking to be like, yo, we have to embrace being what rich is. And what you realize is that that's the next thing about being rich. And I mentioned before in another episode that I talk about when I just turned end of November update or something like that, where you can go around and tell people what it takes to be rich and stuff like that, but they will never do it because what happens is that crowd thinking. You want to be a part of the crowd, so what happens is that you basically do all the things that keep that keep you keep the crowd poor just to be in the crowd. So you wearing a nice shirt would basically get you bashed or robbed or killed by the crowd instead of the crowd asking you, how did you get that shirt? And you say, I work. And then when the shirt is for like 5,000, and if you actually work at a place, you get X amount and just spend 5,000 that shirt and you get it. But no, what would happen is that you'll see the shirt and then the crowd would either try to rob, try to bash, would try to either shame you into wearing that shirt, or kill you and take the shirt. Instead of they just asking you that, oh, how do you get a shirt? You tell them they follow the process and get it, and everybody in the crowd could get it. No, that shirt is a standard. Then everybody in the crowd is richer by getting that shirt, and that no shirt is the new standard. That's the thing. But it's hard to actually convince people to do that. It's that's the thing about getting rich and breaking generational curses. It's like a death sentence. You see how they did Jesus when Jesus is coming to save the world. He actually end up dying. He actually get killed by the people he was trying to save. But he already knew that. So that's one of the things that you have to accept when you're actually trying to get rich and get out of poverty is that actually kind of giving yourself a death sentence. So you have to accept the fact that okay, you may not make it out of life, but you may make it further than many people, than many people, and making it further than most is way better than staying with the crowd. That's the next thing because that's the next thing about again slavery and all those stuff. My country again, our heroes that I grew up to learn about and celebrate and all those stuff. If they never took that initiative, we would still be enslaved. That bad version of slavery. It's not say that we're out here big, free, and living lavish now, but they made a great progress. You have to appreciate their progress. Without those our heroes, and I did an episode about our national heroes. Again, without them, certain privileges that we have now, we would not have because they took the initiative. So that's one of those things where you're getting richer or whatever you're trying to do. You're basically setting yourself up for a death sentence because what happens is that you are basically trying to do something that is different from the crowd, and then the crowd doesn't like change. So you're basically so what the crowd will try to do is just basically the shame. bash, kill you, or all those stuff. So you have to accept that reality, and when you accept that reality, then you say, okay, you make initiative to make the progress and minimize the fact, minimize the likelihood of that happening as much as possible. Then you try to make the progress. I can't tell you how to do it. The podcast can't tell you how to reach this far, but yeah, that's all it can do. Ye- When you reach this far, then you have to go your future way. So basically, back to the story is that, so as I said, I'm and the funny thing is it kind of relates to my work because what I'm doing is lifting suitcases. So that was the thing. So basically, what happened was that I'm going back to university now. So the story is I'm going back to university. So when I'm going back to university, I have to pack my clothes because I'm going back on the dorm. So what happened is that I would have bored already. So this is not. So it will be like conveniently enough. This first episode will be released in January. So it will be one of those January semesters that I'm going back in. So what happened is that I would not take all my clothes when I go home. I would just take some of the clothes and all the other stuff when I go back home. And then when I come back now, I'd basically care about those clothes in the same suitcase. So what happened is that if you listen to my journey to get to my university degree, you know that when I actually the city that the university in, there's like a place called a downtown area. So my first time going down to that area, it was really bad. Like all the the bad stuff that I experienced, um all of the major bad stuff that I experienced in my high school my high school it was in another city. So everything that I experienced, the worst of the worst in that city, I experienced it first night going downtown in the second city. so so it's way worse. It's way worse. So that's the thing about life. It's hard. Life is hard, bro. Life is hard. So the next thing is so boom, I'm going back now to going to the coast and all those stuff. And then I had another friend. So I reach so I had a friend I saw one of my friend that I knew from high school was going down back to university as well. So we were in the bus chilling and basically boom, reach to the park. So I'm out there with the suitcase walking through, trying to go through the downtown and all those stuff. And what happened is that when I reached a certain area, I see this person trying to call me. And then he said something, are you this name? And this, and the thing about that name is so similar to my one of my names. So it was so weird. So I was out here walking and then boom. So they trying, then they come and say, oh, you look like this person. And I look like this person. Then I realized that, bro, yeah, this person is out here trying to either rob or kill me or stuff like that. So I had to just basically try to move up and then boom. And then what happens was that the friend that I was walking with you know, I basically just call him and be like, yo, try to just get him attention. And then boom, when this person me with walking with the other person, he basically backed off and then going so. And it's like that was very a traumatic experience, you know, a very traumatic experience. So it's like one of those stuff where I realize that those are the trials that you have to go through just to get a degree. And when you get a degree, none of those people will value it. They will always say, yo, you have to the hustle that they're doing is like it's you know it's always it's funny, bro. Like the longer you live, the more you understand. The more you believe the days of slavery, like all the stuff that you're learning about, all those, the more you believe it, and the more you can out there try to change it and all those stuff, and you just have to be like, bro, you're out, you're out here, like people are legit an enemy of progress. So that's legit what you will see and be like, bro, it's funny. It's funny, but you have to actually just try to push through, do as much as you can while you're here, because you won't be here forever, or you may not be here forever. And then break as much cycles as you can, and then boom, you'll be celebrated and rewarded. All those stuff. But yeah, life is life has a lot of unforeseen things, and this podcast really can't really tell you how to prevent any of those stuff, because when you're in that situation, you just don't know what. You just have to be like, bro, if you make it out, you learn from the experience and be like, okay, going forward, this is how I'm going to approach it. But when you're in the situation, the only option is to just try to make it out. That's the only option. Try to make it out. When you make it out now, then you can basically go back to that thing and be like, okay, that's the best approach to actually do that. But yeah, life life is really an interesting journey. It's a journey you will take and meet a lot of interesting. Thing about your journey is that you are the main characters, and then boom, you're all. So you listen to me. You're listening to me. I'm not the main character in your story. I'm one of the other person. I'm one of maybe the other obstacles that you have to actually overcome and all those stuff. I could be. You don't know. I will always try to be the good one of the good persons, but not in the good person. Try to be a hero. But a lot of people out there want to be the villain, bro, and do the wrong stuff. Like, so you have to overcome all those stuff to actually reach somewhere. Yeah. That's basically it for this episode. Thank you for listening. I look forward for the next episode. Mhm.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/CSSB/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.